Well, we are going to switch gears a little bit here and we're going to talk about choosing promotional products because you may have chosen a lot of promotional products for your events and your exhibits over the years, but you may not necessarily have chosen the best ones. So we have an expert here to help you today. And I want to remind everybody, again, go ahead and type questions in the Q&A as we go along because Rama can answer those maybe if we have just a little bit of time at the end. So I want to introduce her real quick. Rama Beerfas is the Chief Solutions Specialist of Lev Promotions, a promotional marketing company founded in 2002. Lev Promotions' three areas of expertise are in promotional products, trade show marketing, and event marketing. She has her MAS or Master Advertising Specialist certification from PPAI, as well as the CTSM or Certified Trade Show Marketer designation from Exhibitor. She works with clients to recommend products and services that are relevant to client branding, goals, and target market demographics, while melding with the client's overall marketing message and tactics. She calls this strategic memorability. So Rama, I'm going to bring up your slides and I don't want to take up any more of your time. So I'm going to take myself off camera and let you just roll with your presentation.
Well, thank you, Marlis, and I am so happy to be here. This is going to be a little bit fast and furious because this is normally a 90-minute presentation condensed down into 20. So I'm starting my little timer here and trying to stay on track. So this is 5 tips for choosing promotional products for trade shows. My name is Rama Beerfas, and I am the Chief Solutions Specialist at Lev Promotions. We've been in business for 19 years, over 19 years actually, doing promotional products. And our niche market is actually trade show and event marketing. So I work with a lot of exhibit managers to help them choose the right promotional product. And that is very different for every company based on their branding, their messaging, their call to action, what it is that they're trying to accomplish. So again, we're going to go through 5 tips today, fast and furious, about choosing promotional products for trade shows. You're not going to find anything specific, but you're going to find general rules and guidelines that you should be following. So the first of the 5 are, we're going to talk about my 4 rules for trade show and event marketing using promotional products. The second tip we're going to talk about is how to understand your audience better so that you can choose the right promotional product for them. We're going to talk about reading the contract so you don't step into a hole of choosing the wrong promotional product and then not being able to use it. We're going to talk a little bit about what you should expect regarding ROI and ROO from your promotional products, because yes, you should be expecting some sort of ROI and ROO from them. And finally, we're going to talk a little bit about gamification, which is my secret code word, gamification, and something that we can get into a little bit more if you'll join me in my booth a little later this afternoon. So we're going to talk first of all about my 4 rules for trade show promotional products. The first one, please, please, please make it something that is non-breakable. You usually have a choice. If your heart is set on a particular product type, usually we can find you something that is an alternative to that is not breakable, because the last thing that you want to happen is you have this great promotion, someone puts it in their show bag, they go to lunch, they drop it on the floor, or they drop it on the table, or they come back to their hotel room at the end of the night. What do? You kick off your shoes, you drop your show bag on the floor. And the last thing you want to hear is the tinkle, tinkle, tinkle of something that's breaking in your bag when you have critical things inside of there that now you have to reach in for and hope that you're not going to hurt yourself. So when in doubt, choose the non-breakable option for a product. The other option too is that it needs to be lightweight. And what you'll actually find is this ties in very closely to the non-breakable option, because many of the breakable options for products also tend to be heavier. For instance, if you are dead set that you have to give away some sort of a mug, do you know that the average ceramic coffee mug weighs about a pound? That's a pound you're sticking into someone's show bag, and then they have to lug it around the floor along with everything else that they are taking with them. And it makes it heavy. And if it's too heavy and it starts cutting into their hand, or they just don't feel like dealing with it anymore, They're going to leave it on top of a trash can, on top of a table somewhere, on someone else's table in their booth, or worst of all, in a trash can somewhere. So make sure that when you're given the option that it's something that is as lightweight as possible. You want to make it easy to pack, not bulky. Actually, just this morning on Good Morning America, I heard them say, once again, do not check luggage if it's absolutely possible not to do so, because right now airlines are making a lot of changes. And if you lose your luggage in the midst of those changes, you're going to lose the luggage that's been checked, not the luggage that you have with you on the plane. A lot of people don't even take luggage to check. Everything is a carry-on bag. So if you're dead set on doing a cowboy hat, which I actually had happen to me before I got into the business and was in the hotel industry, our housekeeping staff got to take home a lot of cowboy hats because they did not fit into anyone's luggage. And while they gladly wore them on the show floor because of the theming of the event, they didn't want to wear them on the airplane or the cab or once they got home. They got left behind in the hotel room. So make sure whatever you choose is small enough, compact enough, and light enough for someone to be able to put it into a carry-on bag to take back home with them. And of course, that leads us, carry-on luggage, make sure it's TSA approved. So if you're insistent on giving out liquids, I know right now hand sanitizers are a really hot item, not necessarily recommended by me anymore at this point, but they are still a hot item. Make sure that the liquids are 3 ounces or less, because we know that's what TSA requires. Make sure it's carry-on friendly. No weapons. No matter how much your target market might like knives, do not do a knife at an event where people are getting back on a plane to go home. And nothing that might look like a weapon. That little photograph on the right there, that's a Coca-Cola bottle, a Sprite bottle, and I think the one on the left in that photo is a Diet Coke bottle. Those were all designed especially for Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland, and people bought them as souvenirs. And even when they emptied them out and put them in their checked luggage, TSA pulled them out because they were perceived to be hand grenades. So make sure that what you're putting into people's hands that you want them to take back to the office or back home with them is going to be TSA approved. There is a website down there. TSA is more than happy to tell you what is and is not approved, and it does change from time to time. All right. Tip number 2, understand your audience. So there's a number of different ways to figure out who your target market is, who that all critical audience is. You check their demographics, you understand their psychographics, and you understand about their culture, customs, and laws. So demographics, most of us are probably familiar with that term. A lot of it is very quantifiable. They're checkbox type of questions, gender, age, education level, job type, industry, zip code. There's a lot of different things that group people together by things that they have in common. A lot of people will tend to react similarly when they have demographics in common. Now, the more demographic points that you can identify for your target market, the more targeted your marketing is actually going to be, because you will have a greater understanding. So if all you know about your demographics is that, oh, they tend to be male. Well, there's a lot of differences within that one demographic. So you really want to try to get at least 3, 4, 5 points within the demographic options in order to really be able to target who your demographic market is. Psychographics is a fun one, and that's a term that I find many people have never heard or don't understand. So the definition straight out of the dictionary is the study and classification of people according to their attitudes, aspirations, and other psychological criteria, especially in market research. Basically, this is about putting people into groups based on how they think or how they act, or how their thinking influences how they act. So you can have very disparate groups of demographics that, because they all think similarly, have the same aspirations maybe, or goals, or wishes, or just are rooted maybe even in their religious beliefs, they will have a similar psychographic and will react similarly to your marketing strategies. Culture, customs, and laws are important and very tricky sometimes to find out. So what you need to know is when you're giving out something, are there legal or regulated limitations on what you can give? And the most extreme example I have of this is actually Singapore, where chewing gum is illegal, and you never want to be giving out chewing gum at a trade show in Singapore because anyone who's in possession of it is going to end up being lashed on their back. So just really sometimes very outlandish things like that. You know, in Utah, you need to be careful if you're doing anything with alcohol that's involved, the kind you drink, not the kind you put on your hands. You need to be very careful with that. So you need to understand what the legal ramifications of doing certain promotional products might be. Knowing where the majority of your attendees are coming from is important. If you are going into a region and it's more of a regional type show, or into a different country where the majority of attendees are going to be from that country, you need to understand culturally where they're coming from, because some things are just not acceptable in certain regions. They mean different things. Even the language we use, the idioms that we use, are different depending on where you're from. So you need to be just aware of where your people are coming from, or if you're going to them, what is acceptable and not acceptable in that area. Do the products and their presentation respect recipients' business customs and norms? So for instance, in Japanese culture, if you present a business card to someone, you don't just hand it to them as we here in the United States tend to do. You actually, it's a presentation. You give it to them on both hands, so it becomes more of a gift. It's a much more important thing than we make of it here in the United States. Similarly, let's go back to those knives, which are a no-no for TSA. But in certain cultures, specifically Asian cultures, giving someone a knife as a gift is an indication that you want to sever your ties with them. So it's not a good way to go about trying to strengthen your relationship with someone who sees it as a way that you want to sever your ties with them. In addition to that, things like food. Know your local tastes. You know, if you're in the South and you're serving drinks, maybe sweet tea is something you want to do. If you're in an area where you have a large Jewish population, maybe you need to make sure that if you're giving away anything that's food-based, that it's kosher, so that you do get to put it in the most hands that possible, and you don't walk away with a ton of it that you have to ship back home or give away, but not to your target market. Read the contract. Are your promotions show management approved? This is actually a piece from my contract at Exhibitor Live in 2019. This is actually not a very uncommon part, is the balloons, how to use them, where to use them, why to use them, why not to use them. There's all sorts of regulations about balloons because they don't want them ending up in their ceiling, getting caught in lighting or in anything electrical that could cause a problem for them. So if you're giving away balloons for some reason, or doing balloon arches or any kind of balloon decor, make sure that you know what the rules are. Also a biggie with show contracts is food giveaways. And that's mostly because they don't want people going from booth to booth to booth and being able to snack on the giveaways, the promotional items, and then not purchase from the food vendors that are in the hall. So for them, it's an economic thing. But just make sure that you know what exactly the rules are. Maybe giving away food somehow really ties into your theme. So my advice, approach show management before you make that last minute decision. Get it in writing from them if they're willing to give you a waiver. Usually if you can show that it's got some sort of a connection to your theming, to your marketing, you're going to be okay, and they're going to give you some sort of a waiver. I can't guarantee that, but my experience has been that probably at least 60-65% of the time they're willing to do that. Something that a lot of people do not expect from their promotional products is ROI and ROO. That's return on investment and return on objectives. Most people see promotional products pretty close to something that as people walk by, you might as well just throw at them so that they have something with your name on it. if that's how promotional products are being used, my philosophy is you might as well throw money at people, because they might actually remember you more than if you're throwing a pen or a plastic mug or whatever it is that you're going to throw at them. That money's less likely to hurt them than whatever you're going to throw at them otherwise. So when you're looking at your promotional products, talk to your promotional products professional, or if you're able to do this, if you can find a way to do this, great. Set measurable goals. Giving something to everyone who attends is usually not a wise goal. I have yet to see it be a wise goal that garners you anything in any setting. However, I was always taught never to say never, so it's usually not a wise goal. Create qualifying criteria to determine who gets what. And this actually fits into the next point, which is have a best, better, good for varying levels of prospects and customers. So whatever your budget will afford, you're better off starting on the best and eliminating better or good, or best and better and eliminating good. So the theory here is that best means that you have a perceived high value item. And let me note that perceived high value and expensive are not necessarily the same thing. So you have a perceived high value item for your best clients and hottest prospects that you expect to stop by a booth. The better is for those warm prospects and good clients that are going to stop by your exhibit. And finally, good would be if you do want to put something out on the counter that people can just grab, and when you run out, you run out. And if it happens in the first 5 minutes, so be it. Or that you just hand to everyone who stops by your booth, and there's really nothing much behind it. You can set your ROIs and ROOs for your best and better categories. You can do it for your good categories, but you have to be a little bit more selective, and you need to be able to create that qualifying criteria. So it could be something as simple as, if you get scanned, you get something. If you spend 2 minutes talking to me, you get something. Or it can be something more involved. If you sit at a presentation, you get something. If you book an appointment, you get something. So there's a whole gamut of ways to run promotional products so that you can develop a metric and you can see what your ROI and or ROO is on that. And that's about having a way to measure your outcomes. Now, there's different points at which you can use the promotional products to help you develop those ROI and or ROO metrics. So you can have a pre-show mailer with an incentive. You can send out a mailer. You can build a landing page so that anyone who clicks on that page is eligible to get something. So maybe you send a postcard out in advance saying, click on the landing page, do this, that, or the other, and we will either send you a gift or give you one at the show. You can send out part of a set to the show. So maybe one glove, and if they bring that glove to the show, they get the second one, or a sunglass case. And if they come and do something that you specify at the show, they get the sunglasses to go in the case. The list goes on. Or you can just do a very simple printed piece to bring back to the show that might have a scratch off on it that they have to have scratched off at the show by a staff member, so they can't decide not to come just because they decide they don't like whatever was scratched off. Or something that if they bring that printed piece, they get to participate in something, maybe a drawing or something at the show. At the show itself, you can have in-booth activities that involve putting kits together, guessing games, all sorts of things at the show that brings people into your booth to earn a promotional product. And of course, you can tie promotional products into your show sponsorship by creating a call to action with any sponsorship you take via the show. And of course, there's also post-shows, which is at-show actions for post-show rewards. So things like setting an appointment at the show, but the appointment itself doesn't happen until after the show. And when the appointment happens, you get the gift. And of course, you should always have some sort of goals regarding the sales over your designated time period post-show, and that will be able to be measured as well. And finally, gamification of promotional products. So you've all seen this, something as simple as a spinning wheel, a cornhole. You have to actively participate in something in the booth or at a location that you designate in order to earn some sort of a prize, which hopefully is more than just a coupon, but actually some sort of a promotional product. Also find the matching one games where I've seen everything done on this, from luggage tags to tote bags where you have hang tags on them and people have to find the matching number. You can decide how many there's going to be, and usually the higher value the prize has, the more participation you get. And you can do this by sending things out in advance, or you can do this by having people come to your booth to pick up something that they then have to find the matching one on the show floor and bring it back to you. And there's a ton of others where those came from. We can discuss those in my booth later. Marlis, if we have any questions, now is the time. That is my contact information. So I welcome you to contact me for specific recommendations regarding your needs, because everything that we do is based on what you need, your branding, your call to action, your theming, who your target market is. And we need to understand that in order to make the best possible recommendations for you.
And, Rama, what you shared, so much of it is so basic. I mean, it should be, like, don't give people stuff that's perceived as that is weapons or perceived as weapons, and things that are breakable. But yet I see those are so often overlooked, and exhibitors so often make those mistakes. So we don't have any questions, because I have a feeling most people have more in-depth questions they want to ask you later. And they knew we were racing. But Mel did share a story. He said, we gave away Girl Scout cookies at exhibitor and Mandalay Bay was not so happy. We had to negotiate a truce. I actually remember that year, the platters of the Girl Scout cookies. So yeah, there's a lot of things, especially for a first time exhibitor. I think people sometimes forget or don't realize what a lot of these regulations are. So Rama, thank you so much. You gave us so much food for thought. Well, didn't mean to do that, but so many great things. And I do want to remind everybody, be sure you go take some time to join Rama in her virtual booth in the expo hall in the Air Meet platform later on today. And remind everybody that Rama's code, in case you missed it in the middle, is gamification. So be sure you jot that down. Rama, thank you so much for being part of Spark. Thank you for being one of our sponsors. And I'm going to just show again, because I love it so much.
That was so much fun to pick out and see come to fruition. It really was.
And it was just so perfect. So if you want to find the perfect gift, stop by and talk to Rama later. So
thank you
guys. Thanks.